Stop everything and watch this video before you draft your next bodice pattern. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to draft the perfect bodice pattern. The measurements you need are your bust, your round under bust, your waist, your hip, your shoulder measurement, bust point, under bust, half length and hip line. The tools needed for this tutorial are your marker pen, your pencil, your pattern master, your measurements, all the measurements mentioned earlier, your tape rule, and of course your pattern paper. So the first thing we're going to do is to draft our initial line. That's just a straight line at the top of your pattern paper. That is where all your measurements will be starting from. It does not need to be of any measurements, just a straight line will do. So once you've put your straight line, that's where from that straight line you start to put our vertical measurements. Our vertical measurements are our bust point, our under bust, our half length, and our hip line. So the first line we're going to draw is actually our chest line. You cannot measure your chest line, but your chest line is derived. Your chest line is your bust divided by 6. Then you add 2.5. So my chest line measurement is 9.75. Then come down and our bust point measurement is 12.5. We'll also come down again. Our under bust is 16. We measure that on our pattern paper. Then our half length is 19. Then our hip line is 8 inches from that 19. So we'll calculate 8 inches depending on how wide the hips are. Can be 8. Apply those same measurements on the other side of the paper so that you can join them in a straight line. After you've done that, just square it up. Then we connect the lines in an orderly fashion. Make sure that your lines are straight so that the measurement is not altered in any way. So after we've connected our lines, you can now label them. So that's our chest line, our bust point line, our under bust line, our waistline, and the hip line. So on these lines you apply your horizontal measurements. That's our bust, our waist, our hip divided by 4, and our shoulder. You know that our shoulder is divided by 2 while other measurements are divided by 4. So our shoulder divided by 2 is 8.5. So we're going to put 8.5 on the initial line, also known as our shoulder line, and also on the chest line, just so we can square it up and connect it. After we place that, we also place our bust measurement on the chest line, and that is our bust measurement is 44 divided by 4, that's 11. Then we'll come down to our waistline, half length line, and we'll apply our waist measurement. My waist measurement is 36 divided by 4, that's 9, plus 1 inch for that our allowance, that's 10. Then our hip line, we measure our hip measurement, and that's 48 divided by 4, that's 12. So we'll place our hip measurement 12 on our hip line. After you've done that, just connect all those lines. So we first connect our shoulder line, that straight line from up to down, not up to down, up to our chest line. Then connect the bust point to your waistline, and then your waistline to your hip line. As you can see, our bodice pattern is already coming to shape. We already have the major body measurements on it. So the next thing we are going to do is to make sure all those lines touch each other. We'll go to our neckline, our neck depth and shoulder slant. Our neck depth is 3 inches by 3 inches. That's the basic neck depth and neck width. But while you are making your dress, you can decide to change it, but for the basic it is 3 inches by 3 inches. That's a very high round neck. Then on the straight line, on the shoulder straight line, we'll come down by 1.5 inch to get our shoulder slant, because our shoulder is not straight. You connect that line, that dot, to your neck point. That's how you get your shoulder slant. After you connect it, you see that's your shoulder slant. To get your armhole curve, you come up on your chest line on that line by 2 inches. Make sure it is 2 inches. Then go in by 0.75 inches. That's 3/4. This is to ensure that the bust sits properly inside your dress. When you are done with that, you just connect from the shoulder slant to that point and then curve from that point to the end of your bust measurement, and then you get your shoulder curve. You get your armhole curve, sorry. Next thing we are going to do is to measure our dart. Now your dart width is between 3 inches and 4.5 inches depending on the bust size. Because our bust size is 44, we are going to be using 4 inches for our dart width. So from the center front, you come in by 4 inches and you mark it on your waistline. You come up to your bust point and mark 4 inches too, and come down to your hip line and also mark 4 inches. After marking these 4 inches, you connect them in a straight line. The reason you marked up and down is so that you can get a very straight line. So the 1 inch that you added to your waist measurement, you remove it from the dart. So on both sides of that straight line you just drew, you measure half inch on the left, half inch on the right, and just mark it. Now your dart starts 1.5 inch above your under bust on that straight line, above your under bust, and stops exactly on your hip line for your front. It starts 1.5 inch above your under bust and ends on your hip line for the front. Then you connect those points to those half inches on either side of the line. That diamond is give you a diamond shape. That diamond shape that you see is your dart. When you sew it in, you get this very fitted body shape, and it just fits to your body nicely. So the next thing we are going to do is to measure our bust dart. As we know, the bust, we need ease for the bust and to shape the bust properly. So depending on the size of the bust, your bust dart is also from 1.5 inch to 2.5 inches. So depending on how full the person's bust is, on that dart line that you marked on your bust point, you come outside towards your armhole by 0.75 inches. If it's a small bust, you can use half inch. If it's a bigger bust, you can use 0.5. And then come down by 1.5 inch to get your bust dart. This also depends on how big the person's bust is. If the person is very busty, you can come down by 2 inches or 2.5 inches, or you can do 1 inch down, 1 inch up, so that it sits nicely. And then I'm scraping out the darts because these will have to go in the end. So we're done with our front bodice this way. As you can see, this is just all we have to do. It's so easy to do. So right now, let's label this part of our bodice of the front so that we don't get confused, and let's go right to making our back bodice. So the back is also very similar to the front. So go to our back. First thing we're going to do is to place our vertical measurement. Now, because of that bust start, what we took at the bust start, the back is going to be shorter than the front. We're going to remove that 1.5 inch we took from the bust start at the back. So we measure what we have from the chest line to the waistline. Then we subtract 1.5. So after we've done that, place that measurement on our back measurement. And place it on 2 sides so we can have a straight line. Then from our waist to our hip, we measure it, that's 8 inches. Then mark it. Then we connect those dots with a straight line so that we can get our vertical lines to apply our horizontal measurements. So we go to our shoulder line. Our shoulder is 8.5. We mark that. Sorry, my back piece stopped recording. So mark 8.5 on the chest line too, and our hip bust measurement, that's 11. Mark it on the chest line too. Then we come back to the waistline and mark our waist measurement, that's 9 inches plus 1 inch for that allowance. Then we go to our hip line and also mark our hip measurement, that's 12. Hip measurement divided by 4, that's 12. Then we connect all those lines just as we did in the front. Connect our shoulder line, connect our bust point to our waistline, then our waist to our hip line. So once we've done that, we go to our neckline. The neck width for the back is also 3 inches, but the depth is 1.5 inches. Then just curve that, let's give that shape. Then our shoulder slant for the back is 1 inch. You know the front was 1.5, the back is 1 inch because we don't need too much ceremony going on there. Then we connect these lines just as we did in the front. The next thing we're going to do is to get our armhole curve. So that line, you divide it by 2. Whatever you have there, divide it by 2. You mark it. Then you come in by 1/2 inch, 0.5 inch. Then connect and curve. Connect from the shoulder line to that point and then curve it from that point to the bust line to get our armhole curve. The back armhole curve is not supposed to be as curvy as the front. It's supposed to be slightly curved because there's no bust, there's nothing that is leaving space for. Next thing we're going to do is to measure our dart. Our dart is also 4 inches, so place 4 inches from 4 inches on the chest line, 4 inches on the hip line, and 4 inches on the waist line. Then connect that. Now my back dart starts 1 inch above the chest line and ends 2 inches above the hip line to accommodate your butt or your bum. So I forgot to draw the straight line, but you also take out that 1/2 inch on both sides of your dart line and connect to the beginning of your dart leg and the end of your dart leg to get this diamond shape again. This is what gives your dress a nice fitting on your body. So once we've connected that, you see that our back has already come in place and it's just nice. So if you intend to apply a zipper on the center back, to reduce your zip bulge, you come in on that waistline by 0.5 inches. Just come in. It does not affect your measurement in any way. Just come by 0.5 inches and connect from the top of your back to that line. Just connect it from the neckline to that 0.5 inches, and from that 0.5 connect to your hip line. It just gives some kind of like what you have in your dart, because our back is not straight, our back is like curvy, so that is going to make it curved. Then you label your back as your back measurements, and then our back bodice is good to go. Very perfect. So thank you for watching today's tutorial. Let me know in the comment sections if this was helpful or not. I'll see you again in our next tutorial. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so that you know every time I post a new video. Bye.